I'll give a brief introduction, then Varun and others will have a lead, and we have a lot of experts here. Poonam is great on architecture, Kalula is also, and Vishal are there on trees and nature. Right? Jennifer is also there. So anyone at any time wants to come with a point, please do it. It's a very interactive. So to start with, how aware are you all of the history of panjim? Any idea when Panjim was called the Siddharthi Nova Goa or the city of New Goa? So, okay, in 1843, Panjim was officially declared as the Siddharthi Nova Goa, the city of New Goa. There was a move to shift the capital out of Old Goa starting somewhere in the 17th century, and there were a lot of politics involved. 1759, I think the Viceroy shifted to the Odisha Palace. In 1843, eventually Panjim was declared as the Siddharthi Nova Goa. When the city of Nova Goa was declared, the first area which developed is the area we'll walk down. It was originally called Palmar Pond. It belongs to a landlord called John, who in fact was also known as Mozambique. He had made his fortune in Mozambique and he owned this property. At his death, he bequeathed it to an institution called Nossa Senhora de Chimbel. And they in turn, when the demand for housing came up, just parceled out the land to everyone, and it was a very haphazard development. So you have all these narrow lanes called becos and all, which today gives the area its character and charm. Where we are right now is called the Lago de Estanzo. It was also known as a tobacco square. Tobacco was introduced by the Portuguese 200 years before the British themselves introduced it in Goa. And this was where the wholesale trading and the depot was. Behind is a building which has been taken up, we won't see it on a walk, but it's a building called, I'm not very good with the Portuguese word, but it's Public Orcas or something, which was basically the PWD. It's been taken up under renovation under the Smart City project. And it's a beautiful stretch on the banks of the river Manduri, which none of us know about. We hope that it turns into a great cultural institution. The other house you see across, which defines the square, is called the Casa de Moeta. If you turn at the back, you see that it was built in 1834. Till 1841, all midpoints were printed over here. So it was basically the RBI office type. The other building across is the post office. These two were the post offices. The Portuguese established this in 1854. Till 1871, they used stamps of British India. Mail was routed through Bombay. Till 1877. In 1871, the first Portuguese stamps were printed, and it went on till 1960. This was a bit about the history in this square. There's also one very gory event which is to happen here. Somewhere here is to be the main pillory, and that was where the execution used to take place. So the 15 people who were tried and executed in the Pinto Revolt of 1787 were executed somewhere. We don't know where exactly it is. We've always tried to find out. So I hand over to Adol Sinha and Varun.
Okay, good morning. Popular. Other parts of the world had not experienced something grown only in one part. So tobacco was this new craze. Of course, you are all anti-smoking now, but that time it was such a sensation that being a trading city also was there. This is where the goods will be unloading. So this became the tobacco city. Okay, let's think about the pin code. We'll walk towards the post office and then walk further. So since we walk, just think what could be so special about the simple pin code that is displayed on there.
It is an initiative of the Goa Tourism Committee of the Tourism Committee of the Goa Chamber of Commerce with Goa Heritage Action Group and a number of private organizations like Soul Travelling, Make It Happen, Tree Walks Goa, Dr. Marian Lobo, Goa Bird Conservation Network.
and Darbana Atale. The aim is to have a walks festival where we do a series of walks through Panjim. We have one in Margao, we have two in Old Goa, and we might have one in Shorao. It's like developing. Every time we're putting out, someone else wants to do a walk. And the basic aim is to try and discover local routes, local trails, which locals themselves should walk, and create new experiences in the tourism sector in Goa, which are low intensive and which cover what is already there. This festival, the inaugural walk is today, and from 26th to 9th, there are around 26th March to 9th April, around 10 to 13 walks are planned. We might have some. The mayor of Panjim also will be joining us to see what further improvements can we do to facilitate walks and experiences like this. I'll hand over to Mr. F.
Yeah, good morning. This is the first walk that we're having. We've got 10 different walks, all curated. Now, Goa Chamber of Commerce is very proud to associate with Goa Heritage Action Group as well as the Panjim municipality to be a part of this initiative. Goa is a lovely place, but it's much better when you walk and look around. Each building has a story to tell, and that's where the soul of Goa resides. It's not just beaches or parties, but there's much more than that. And Goa is, why the initiative of this is, Goa is a very small state. What we require is minimum footsteps generating maximum revenues. I think that's the formula that we can look for Goa. And if we encourage such things, if we expose whatever our ancestors have put for us, it's amazing. The buildings itself in Panjim, we have got the Casa de Moeda. This was the mint behind us. We've got a post office to the right. To the left, there's the headquarters, while the post office is to the left here. If we move ahead, along the street itself, there are wonderful buildings, including there is a finishing house for girls before they got married. There was a place which is just before Mandovi, before the State Bank of India. That was a place. So every edifice here has its own story to tell. So besides Panjim, we'll be also going to surrounding areas like Old Goa, Shorao, and maybe one day we'll do little tours from the rivers, because Goa is so beautiful. It's created by the good Lord to be seen from the rivers. We can see a very good part of it. That may be our next initiative, but that will be much later. Anyway, thank you all so much.
So right now where it will stop? From here to, it will go where?
See,
The walk starts from here.
here, see, this is the commercial side of the Panjim. The residential side is to my left here. Okay, there are these wards: Santame, Fantainj, Mala, Portais, and Rastu Batle. That's where the Panjim residential areas are there, situated, which are located. That's where the soul of Panjim resides, although the body is to my right. Now, the first walk is covering the first ward, that is Santame to my left. So we'll be moving down this street and we'll be going till the junction of Fontaine, and we'll be ending there. Lots of things to see in this ward itself.
these walks are for us, all of us, to become more aware of the beauty around us. That is one aspect. The other is that if we appreciate something, then we value it, and if we value, we will preserve it, conserve it, enjoy it for the future generation. There is another aspect to it. We forget our youngsters, our children who are walking these streets, the women. They are the ones, what is it that they are experiencing? Is it safe enough? Is it good quality? Can we walk actually? So there is a whole section of society we get in touch with. Otherwise, we just rush by in our cars and scooters and destinations. And what happens to the city when it loses the 60% of its population's engagement? You know? How do we bring that about? How do we make it for all our societies, just not some people, men on scooters, women on scooters, or working population, but also vendors, also small businesses, also eateries, and what about the tourists? What do they experience? So when we walk around, we get to know our own city a little better, and let's all be very conscious. Every building, new building that we put in is a carbon footprint. Can the earth afford constant engagement of new carbon? I don't think so. It is high time we become aware and make good use of existing, because these are all carbon neutral buildings. We can make good use of them, repair them, restore them before we build new buildings. So this is more to engage in this dialogue to understand where Panjim and other parts of Goa, all our ancestral cities, villages with huge lot, we would want to expand it, not just Panjim. And that's the whole idea to start. Let's be carbon conscious, let's be conscious of the 60% of our population, women and children, and also the vendors.
And what's the good name?
Poonam Verma Masquerades. The book on Panjim, which was released by Goa Heritage Action Group, Mapped Heritage of Panjim, was my initiation, and I'm an architect and a conservationist. And that was the first step to bring more focus on how much we have lost in the last 10 years. We have lost 109 buildings, but there are still 950 buildings which are of value. But we are losing them.
Altogether, how many buildings have you said?
950 buildings.
Okay, and how many we have lost? 100?
We have lost 110 buildings to development, to wrong kind of intervention. They have lost their historic value, because when we do listing, it is according to the value. So there is a way to keep the architectural value and historical value intact. But some of these buildings, so do look at the book. There is a whole chapter as well on it, as to how we should go about restoring, or even just making their lives better. These are our elderly people who need a little love and care to take them into our future with us.
Why we are losing, ma'am, those buildings?
Some are being sold and demolished, land value, FAR, not in conservation zone. So we have been putting a lot of pressure and requesting the TCP to extend the conservation zones. We will be walking through a conservation zone, but the central district of Panjim, which is unique in terms of number of buildings that we actually have. No other city has these, and they are the ones which are under attack in a way. You would have heard about the demolition of, which has been stalled for now, redevelopment in front of the Panjim Square, both sides. And so there are these buildings which are all often under threat, because we are not realizing their value in terms of the character it brings to the city, in terms of their carbon content, and we are looking at high-rise and FARs, which I think is misplaced. Panjim should have a gentle aggregation in terms of its development, not the stark towers. I think one is in Kampala, if I'm not mistaken. Macau.
There are quite a few now. I mean, there is Vela Goa here, there is market, and there is, if you go to the villages, it's just there, there's another.
I've been with them since 2020, and well, soul traveling is all about offbeat experiences. When we talk to people, when we talk to guests, when we talk to tourists, and we ask them like, what is Goa to you guys? What do you think about Goa? What have you heard about Goa? The answers, the common answers we get is it's all about the 3 B's: beach, booze, bikinis, latest tech, casinos, and blah blah blah. So this is the mindset we want to change. That people have like the stereotype thinking, and we want to tell the world and the people that Goa is much more than that, about the rich heritage, culture, and we do a lot of places, offbeat experiences here in North Goa as well as in South Goa. We do the islands. It's a totally different experience and people really enjoy it. We tell the local stories, the history, and it's catching up so well that we're very busy. And we're looking forward to today's heritage walk.
When tourist appears here now, first thing they appear guide,
Yeah.
tourist guide,
Yeah.
who is misleading them.
Correct.
Is it true?
Yes, that is true. Like, I'll give you an example pertaining to your question. For example, Donna Paula. There's a story that's doing the round. There are 2 stories that's doing the round. That Donna Paula was in love with a local fisherman, and because the father was against their relationship, they both committed suicide. The second story is doing the rounds that she waited for her boyfriend who went out to sea on the boat and never returned back, and she just stopped eating and she died. Both of which are wrong.
People get confused.
People get confused, and this story, this self-acclaimed so-called guides, they have made up these stories, and this story is doing the round with a lot of other guests. Like the story goes to another person, that person tells it to somebody else. So I think there is a need for proper information, like proper informed guide, well-trained guides. This wrong story should not go out, because then it becomes a story with others, and the wrong information is given to people. Yeah, so you're right when you ask me that question.
Thank you.
You turn towards the church when you come down, go below the church and take that left again, which comes back to the panjim. Take a left again, there's the Ola, and we're just around 10 meters from there.
Ramos. I am the area director of IHCL Goa. IHCL has all the brands like Taj, Vivanta, Ginger. Now they come up with Ama. Why I am interested in this? Because it is the Taj that put Goa on the map. We came up with the property in 1974. It's very nostalgic for a group. We are a big group. We are a Tata group, But we have always been on the forefront of conserving heritage, doing things for the people. We believe in a lot of charity. We don't announce it, but we do it quietly. So whether it is COVID or whether it is anything, that we want to be on the forefront. Goa is such a beautiful place. We all know that. And what is actually keeping Goa on the top is the heritage. And if we don't preserve this heritage, I think we will have a big problem in the future. So I'm part of it to tell everyone that, hey, listen, we are game for you to be in this game of preserving heritage of Goa. And we would love Goa and India to shine. We want all the people of the world to know that, Goa is the place. It is such a lovely place. There is communal harmony. There is everything that is here. It's a buzzing, hot pot of everything. Thank you so much. And I wish you all the best.
I'd just like to thank everybody, first of all, for coming out this early on Saturday morning. And I'd like to thank GCCI also and everyone who's here for basically helping us to... our aim is to turn Panjim into like a cultural hub of Goa and provide an alternative to like the casinos and everybody else also. So I'd just like to extend a vote of thanks to all of them for helping me achieve this thing.
Mayor, what culture hub? We didn't get.
No, see, for example, now see.
So we are doing all these trails, heritage trails, which will get an idea of what cultural institutions are there and all, plus festivals and all.
Like the one behind us, we've got a mint here. This is the mint. It was the first Goa's mint. Goa's own mint.
So there are a lot of aspects of people of the city of Panjim that the residents themselves don't know about. So we're hoping is through these walks and through a lot of other activities we're trying to organize, that people just feel more involved. So it'll be a slow process, but we're starting it one step at a time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone has got a guess what it could be? The first one in Goa. No. Yeah, that's a nice guess. But something more. Okay. Do you know that this place shares its pin code with another place in the world? Portugal. Yes, that's the most common answer that I get.
It's a continent. It's not a country.
Yeah, so there is a very interesting story here. So he said Antarctica, I don't know if it's true, but the thing is, if any Indian, if Vishal goes to Antarctica tomorrow and we have to write a letter to Antarctica, we use the pin code 403001. Any Indian who does that uses this pin code. Can you guess why? Okay, so the Indian research in Antarctica is based out of something called the NIO. It started with NIO, now it's NCAO. But NIO had the pin code 403001. Okay? And the first research station, Dakshin Gangotri, when it needed a post office, it started with the same pin code as 403001. Now Dakshin Gangotri is under snow, it's not functional. We move to Maitri, which is the second one, which is still functional with the same pin code. And the current one is Bharti, which is asking for a new pin code. I don't think there is a post office there yet. So we hope that the same pin code will continue for that one as well. But knowing this story, I would just give you a little something, a postcard. I don't know when you last posted one, but when you go around this walk, once you complete, just write something to any friend or family of yours and post from here so that they also realize the special pin code from here. Okay, so I'll just share it along with you.
The stamps are already there. All you have to do is write your message, address, and I hope you guys remember how to write a postcard because it's a forgotten website.
So next what we will do is we'll take a left turn. And go inside. or postal museum, as you call in India, planned here. Now the whole site will be revamped, and that is something that will be something of pride for all of us, because we don't really have such, we have some museums in Goa which are really good. We have the Museum of Christian Art, we have Museum of Houses of Goa, Goa Chitra, and this will probably be one of them which will stand out, in Panjim and Fontanish, or this area as well, is what I feel. Ma'am, do you want to share anything more regarding?
This is it, because it's also the future. All old, just knowing the past, but the fact that the same building carrying this story forward is extremely important. And these buildings have that potential to make the connection from where we are coming to where we could go. And so there could be more than just a museum, but also about, the postal service, and you never know how more and where all it can expand for the kids.
So the postal service has an initiative where they give you a blank stamp and you can put your own image, so you can make your own stamps. Right? So that's possible with digital technology now. Like you can get, if you're sending out invites, you can make a customized stamp. So if it's announcing the birth of a baby, you can put a baby picture and that can be the stamp. So that is some way like you're marrying the old and the new. So that's it.
50 years, okay, 70 years, a really good building. There is an example of the Golconda House in Pondicherry, which is about 100 years old. It was built in the 1920s. Okay, and if you look at these were built and they are almost about 100 years old and much more. So the question is, today when we build, can we build something that can last for not only 100 but 200, 500, even 1,000 years? And therefore, when you look at the kind of materials that were used, the Portuguese didn't bring materials from Portugal or Europe. They were all materials that were found all around the area, just like animals build in nature. So you find predominantly laterite stone and mud. And today when you talk to people about mud, there is of course a stigma connected to it, because only a poor man will build in mud. But mud is, for Goa at least, is the most sustainable material and the material of the future.
Okay, thanks. That's it.
Yeah. That's the one. What's the house? You found enough? You are not mistaken.
No. He's from Panaji and
So when we do ram dirt, just taking from there, we don't even reflect like it's strong, but the ram dirt is strong as nothing. And then we add, and very possible because of the soil that we have in Goa. It has so many minerals, iron being one, and also clay for this. But of course there is a whole science to it, how much, what proportion comes into it, how do we ram it, how well, and then protect the plant. And most of the oldest buildings in Goa are in ram dirt, not that dirt. So earth indeed, I would like to again say, and join together, soil, not the soil. One, we need to protect what we have, make good use of it, because that is the material that is already being used, carbon neutral. And new buildings, if we can bring our own traditional materials back, it will be far safer world for our material. So if you what Poonam is mentioning is simply that this is the base of the tree. That's lateritic soil called muram. Okay, muram because it has a little bit of pebbles, lateritic pebbles. So if you take that, that has the right contents. You don't need to add sand, you don't need to add anything else. So today if we talk about sand mining, so if we talk about sand mining, you can eliminate use of sand completely. And with optimum water, you can, there are tests, you can just press it, it becomes like a hard rock. And then try.
In the Catholic faith, we have saints which have a particular patronage given to them, like St. Anthony is the patron saint of lost and found. So similarly, St. Thomas is known as the saint for architecture and carpenters. Okay. Now, before I go into that explanation, why he's given that time.
Lane with his character. This is also Rohit has asked us for ideas on how he can improve this area. So we see one gate which is not very well kept, and then people can come and see how you can make it a little better. It's a narrow lane is basically.
Involved with the site is required for the festival. And then what you put into, you can recycle the same material, it doesn't really matter. And if there is a variation, it can be even better. But having a palette, okay, for this I'm going to use these, and constantly setting the system. What happens is one changes, next one comes in, doesn't even think about it, is not interested, something else comes in.
So basically,
Set those records, sorry. It is important that we actually become aware, okay, and it can be something. If you are doing it yourself, do it yourself to do this, please. Please choose these three and be so that we are. We can make it.
In terms of which you are doing.
So in long term, it will be. Like a handbook that
the influence might be there, but there's a security. There is a reason why the net basically came from that, right? I think. Just correct.
Right?
Yes.
And this is the mud which they took. They cut this hill, they took this mud and they filled it in front of Adil Shah's palace to do that road filling at that time. So it was convenient both ways. And what happens is, if you go down the road, there was a chapel down the road as you turn left a little ahead. Now they wanted to do a pathway to go to Santa Cruz. So at that time, that was a block. So they relocated the chapel up. They first built this, you can see a photograph where you see two chapels, and then they demolished the chapel down.
She wants to add something about this building.
While we romanticize this, there was a huge sewage problem, right? The Ore Creek used to stink. And there was they had just come from the cholera epidemic from old Goa. So the problems of urbanization, city planning were always plaguing the city, and a lot of work had to be done to make it livable, habitable, right? And if anybody came from that route in the morning, you'd see the Ore Creek was still stinking. So still a lot of sewage is going into the water. So you have to live in a healthy and ecologically conscious way.
Just to add to this was a marshy land. It was a farm grove. Now the thing is, at that time they needed places for housing, so like how they said, very haphazardly they but why they chose this place? Because we are below a hill called Alti, and water would be available to fill the wells. So that was the basics what they were looking out for at that time. So that is why this development.
There is also spring walk which deals specifically with that.
You'll come to know why for Spanish the name comes about.
She wants to tell about this.
Yes.
The fountain. Like the fountain.
Yes.
This building appeared in sea.
Pont Phoenix is the name of the fountain.
And
And also at Hotel Republic.
But that accent doesn't come on, it comes to people who
Can I introduce you? Because we spoke on your road. That's the member from the Gomes Ferreira family.
Oh wow.
And we spoke about Rohit Monseratte.
Good morning. You have to say the name.
From the war, right? So these German ships were here, and the Portuguese was okay with Germans being here. So they bombed, and these guys were sitting in the casino. This is the story. I don't know how far
Yes,
it is.
ma'am, the ships were not bombed. So while these guys were enjoying, there were some still on board the ship. So the captain knew that the British intelligence was after them. So he gave orders that all these three ships be set on fire and scuttle the ships. And here's the proof: the ships are burning.
Yeah. So in the port, we had a small steeple. You could see it. We always knew the ships were there. Some people used to come and die. But now I think they